As one of the most enduring action heroes in gaming, Ryu Hayabusa has been slicing through enemies since his first appearance in Ninja Gaiden during the late 1980s. From his arcade and NES debut, through his triumphant 3D revival, and even as he crossed over into the fighting game community within the Dead or Alive series, Ryu's evolution in gameplay, narrative, and cultural impact is of note, despite not having the same name value as a Mario or Sonic. However, Koei Tecmo may be phasing out their longest standing character. In 2025, 2 new games have or will enter the Ninja Gaiden series. The recently released Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, developed by the Game Kitchen that sees the series return to its 2D hack-and-slash roots, and the upcoming Ninja Gaiden 4. In both games, we are seeing a shift in perspective. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound will feature the new ninjas Kenji Mozu and Kumori as the playable protagonists, and Ninja Gaiden 4 will see Ryu sharing the spotlight with Yakumo. It's too soon to say whether this is a new direction or simply a way to help Ryu find his way back into the limelight. But just in case, we want to take a look back at the legacy of the man who put the ninja in Team Ninja. Ryu Hayabusa's first appearance came in 1988 with Ninja Gaiden for the arcade, known as Ninja Ryukenden in Japan and Shadow Warriors in Europe, not to be confused with Shadow Warrior or Ninja Warriors, very similar sounding yet mostly different games. Introducing our lead character without his name or much story, it was a straightforward side-scrolling brawler set in the US where our hero takes on an evil cult. At the same time, Tecmo was also developing an NES release of Ninja Gaiden, not as a port, but as a tandem project. It was here where the series truly started to take shape, as the NES game casts Ryu as a young ninja who finds a letter from his dead father and journeys to America, where he then becomes entangled in a cult plot to revive an ancient demon. Certainly more than we ever got from the arcade game, Ninja Gaiden became the first NES game to utilize cinematic cutscenes to tell a story, wowing critics and players alike for its anime-style adventure, cast of characters, and emotional weight. This game set the template for Ryu's core abilities. He could run, jump, wall cling, and unleash various techniques via power-ups, including the iconic windmill shuriken and fire wheel ninpo. The controls were responsive, challenging players to master ruthlessly precise platforming and combat. Infamous for its difficulty, it was bolstered by its fantastic story, music, and smooth gameplay, all defining traits for the series throughout the decades. Shortly after the first game, Ninja Gaiden 2: The Dark Sword of Chaos expanded Ryu's story on the NES. Introducing Ashtar, the villain behind the villain from the first game, Ryu's narrative now involved rescuing FBI agent Irene and preventing darkness from consuming the entire world. The game played similar to the first one, but included things like the Spirit Clones mechanic, letting players create shadow duplicates of Ryu that mimicked his moves. Ryu's wall scaling now allows him to climb up and down, making him even more maneuverable, though that did not make the game any easier. The sequel maintained the series' high difficulty and earned praise for improving on the original with new abilities and a slightly more forgiving design. By 1991, the final chapter of the NES hit shelves under the title Ninja Gaiden 3: The Ancient Ship of Doom. This time, Ryu is framed for the murder of Irene and uncovers a web of conspiracy involving a rogue CIA scientist, bioengineered creatures, and the truth behind his father's fate. It was a more nuanced tale, as we saw Ryu navigating deceit and moral ambiguities beyond your standard run-of-the-mill revenge plot. As if the stakes weren't high enough, Tecmo added to the difficulty even further in the US version, notably limiting the player's continue count and increasing the damage from enemy attacks. New tricks like the temporary sword extension power-up and the ability to hang from pipes were added, and was praised by critics for being able to maintain what was loved from the first 2 games while still trying some new things. While the trilogy and the NES hit the end of its life, Ryu Hayabusa's adventures received a send-off in 1995 with Ninja Gaiden Trilogy on the Super Nintendo. A 16-bit graphical remaster, this collection included some updates, including restoring the easier Japanese version for Ninja Gaiden 3, with infinite continues and lower damage. The game preserved the core style and beloved cutscenes, introducing the futuristic saga to a new audience in the 90s. At the same time, Sega produced its own Ninja Gaiden spin-offs for their systems, entirely unique games for the Game Gear and Master System, and Natsume developed a prequel game for the Game Boy. By the mid-90s, Ryu had established himself in 6 different stories as gaming's #1 ninja. Like a lot of franchises that hit it big in the 8 and 16-bit eras, there were no new mainline titles for Ninja Gaiden during the transition to 3D. Yet Ryu Hayabusa's story was far from over. In 1996, Tecmo introduced a fighting game titled Dead or Alive for arcades and the Sega Saturn, and lo and behold, One of the playable characters was the main ninja himself. Directed by Tomonobu Itagaki, the game featured Ryu as a fighter who entered the tournament to keep an eye on his ninja clan allies. Ryu's bouncy, agile, moveset was adapted to 3D fighting. His presence also tied DOA's storyline to Ninja Gaiden's world, and characters like Ayane and Kasumi would find their way into the later Ninja Gaiden games as well. He then returned for Dead or Alive 2 in a larger role, becoming the canonical protagonist of the story, which sees him winning the tournament and defeating an interdimensional demon called Tengu. Ryu is portrayed as the hero figure, working alongside characters like the returning Irene Liu from the original trilogy to stop Doatech's sinister experiments and supernatural threats. This felt like an impressive feat, as he proved he could headline a completely different genre from his own original platformer series. From then on, Ryu remained a central figure and fan favorite in the Dead or Alive roster. Even when the game's spotlight transitioned to other characters, Ryu was always present as a steadfast ally on the side of good. His appearances in every main DOA entry from 1996 onward helped bridge the two franchises long before we were culturally abusing the term cinematic universe. Tecmo had found a way to intertwine Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive through Ryu Hayabusa, solidifying his status as a multi-genre star. Longtime fans may have been waiting over a decade for a new action game, but Ryu stayed in the gaming consciousness. As a matter of fact, the popularity of the DOA series set the stage for Ninja Gaiden's grand return, showing Tecmo that Ryu Hayabusa still had a passionate fanbase and an appetite for more ninja action. Players would get their wish very soon. After over a decade without a new Ninja Gaiden, Ryu Hayabusa came roaring back onto the scene in 2004's Xbox-exclusive Ninja Gaiden, a modern 3D reboot developed by Team Ninja and led by DOA creator Tomonobu Itagaki. It was a reimagining of the franchise with the game's story now formally set in the same continuity as the DOA games, and effectively serving as a prequel to the original NES trilogy. We find a younger Ryu in the modern world, living in the Hayabusa village, which comes under attack by the evil Vigour Empire. When a powerful evil sword called the Dark Dragon Blade is stolen during a massacre of Ryu's clan, he embarks on a quest for vengeance and retrieval of the blade. This establishes a new character arc for the ninja, a survivor of tragedy and a guardian of his clan's heritage, blending the mystical ninja themes of the old games with the new contemporary setting. Critically and commercially, this 3D comeback was a tremendous success, earning universal acclaim for its deep, demanding combat and cutting-edge graphics. Widely regarded as one of the best action games of its era, it sold over 1.5 million copies, making it one of the top 10 best-selling original Xbox titles. Team Ninja gave Ryu an expansive arsenal. He starts with his trusty dragon sword, but throughout the adventure, players unlock a wide range of weapons, each with their own deep moveset. The gameplay emphasis was on skill and speed. Fights were fast, brutal, and required precise timing for both offense and defense. This balance of difficulty was exhilarating, and the result was a game that felt incredibly rewarding to master. By integrating lore from DOA and referencing the events of the NES games as future occurrences, the 3D reboot created a cohesive Ninja Gaiden universe bridging the past and present. It even included the NES trilogy as unlockables within the game. Following the success of his solo 3D debut, Tecmo released an enhanced version titled Ninja Gaiden Black that added new challenge modes, extra costumes, and polished gameplay tweaks. This became the definitive version of the 2004 game, featuring an even harder difficulty mode alongside other additions. Not one to rest on their laurels, Team Ninja then brought Ryu to the PlayStation after a long hiatus with Ninja Gaiden Sigma on PS3. Again a remake of the 2004 game, it was upgraded with HD graphics and some new content, most notably the female character Rachel becoming playable in a handful of chapters, giving fans a different perspective on the story. There were some further balance changes, but it allowed an entirely new audience of PlayStation gamers to experience Ryu's high-octane maneuverability. This game later even got a portable release on the PlayStation Vita as Sigma Plus in 2012. Through these iterations, one thing remained constant. Ryu Hayabusa was now the gold standard of 3D combat and action gameplay in the aughts, mixing fast-paced combo-driven action with punishing yet fair difficulty. After several years of releasing remakes of the same hit game, in 2008 Team Ninja followed up with Ninja Gaiden 2 on the Xbox 360. It was faster, more aggressive, and notably bloodier for an audience that matured with the series. As Ryu slashed through demons and rival ninjas, enemies would lose limbs, and in a frenzy, headless or armless foes would launch kamikaze attacks as a last-ditch effort. Sure, it gave the game a bit of a shock-jock appeal, kind of like what carried Mortal Kombat through the 90s, but it also added a layer to the combat strategy, giving a little more purpose to the gore. Now, Ryu was facing the Black Spider Ninja Clan and a cadre of greater fiends in a quest to stop the Archfiend from unleashing terror upon the world. The game was praised for its insanely satisfying combat and high challenge, though it did garner critique for technical issues and a perceived lack of innovations beyond the combat refinements. In a bout of history repeating itself, Ninja Gaiden 2 was brought to the PS3 later as Ninja Gaiden Sigma 2, where they made some arguably controversial adjustments, reducing the enemy count in some encounters and toning down the gore. But these subtractions also made way for some new additions as Ayane, Momiji, and Rachel became playable characters in certain chapters. Trimming down the violence didn't necessarily sit well with some fans, but Sigma 2 was still a strong title and helped cement Ninja Gaiden 2 as a cult favorite for those who love action. Simultaneously, Ryu continued moonlighting in the Dead or Alive series on the side. This era intersected with the previously mentioned DOA 4, and then he appeared again in the 3DS game DOA Dimensions, a portable compilation of DOA's story. Ryu's consistent presence through the 2000s across two franchises ensured that Koei Tecmo were in full support of the character they were now officially naming the Ultimate Ninja. The end of the 2000s marked a period of transition and experimentation for Ryu's games. In 2008, Team Ninja had another surprise for fans, Ninja Gaiden Dragon Sword on the Nintendo DS. Set between the events of Ninja Gaiden 1 and Ninja Gaiden 2, Dragon Sword featured Ryu and Momiji defending the Hayabusa village, and the game was praised for its intuitive touch controls and translating Ninja Gaiden's fast-paced action into a portable format. Arguably, though, the biggest shifts came with Ninja Gaiden 3 in 2012, the first mainline game developed after Itagaki left Team Ninja. Now, under the direction of Yosuke Hayashi, the team attempted to take Ryu's character and gameplay in new directions. Ninja Gaiden 3 tried to humanize the famously stoic hero and make the series a bit more accessible, which was met with relatively mixed results. In this entry, Ryu is cursed by the grip of murder, a curse that manifests as a bloodied arm after he kills a particular villain. The game delves into Ryu's psyche as he ponders whether a life of endless killing has taken a toll. No longer the cold ninja killing machine we knew, he now shows hesitation and regret. In terms of gameplay, Team Ninja removed features like decapitations and dismemberment, and even the ability to wield multiple weapons. In its place, they introduced new mechanics like the kunai climb, where Ryu slowly climbs walls with his daggers, and quick-time events that could sometimes allow Ryu to auto-kill weakened enemies. The goal was to bring in a broader audience, but many fans felt that Ninja Gaiden 3 departed too far from what the diehard fans fell in love with. The gaming community criticized Ryu's portrayal in Ninja Gaiden 3 as oddly passive and brooding, spending too much time agonizing over murder, something he had become quite intimate and unrelenting with since the 1980s. This was similar to another Koei Tecmo project that fans felt was a bit of a misstep, Metroid Other M. The attempt to make Samus and Ryu more three-dimensional instead just kind of turned the players off. At the same time, the removal of gore and the streamlined combat made the game feel more repetitive, and as a result, Ninja Gaiden 3 is generally considered the weakest mainline entry. However, you can either wallow in your mistakes or learn from them, and Team Ninja went back to the drawing board to release Ninja Gaiden 3 Razor's Edge for the Wii U and then PS3 and Xbox 360 later. This enhanced version of Ninja Gaiden 3 restored much of what fans felt the original entry lacked. It brought back decapitations and dismemberment, reintroduced multiple weapons, and playable characters as Ayane, Kasumi, and Momiji were added, and rebalanced the difficulty to be tougher and more complex. Critics noted that Ryu's tone in Razor's Edge was closer to the brutal ninja we knew and loved, no longer pausing to lament his kills, but just, killing fools. A lot. Razor's Edge effectively closed out this modern trilogy of Ninja Gaiden games on a much stronger note. Meanwhile, Dead or Alive 5 released the same year and continues to maintain continuity between both series, even after the fighting game's creator left to pursue his own studio. In DOA 5, Ryu aids Hayate and Ayane in stopping a new organization called Mist, which is creating super soldiers. No longer the young ninja as Ryu was portrayed before, He is now a fully experienced mentor figure, coordinating with the other ninja to contain the threats. He continued on as a franchise staple in Dead or Alive 6 when he warns the younger ninjas of the series about a resurrected threat and stands by as a guardian figure. This synergy between DOA and Ninja Gaiden continued to magnify Ryu's legacy amongst the hardcore action combat console players and the arcade fighting game community. Now, before we close out this particular era of Ryu's history, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention a more unusual entry in 2014, Yaiba Ninja Gaiden Z. This was an externally developed spin-off title by Concept that took a very different tone. It marked the first ever Ninja Gaiden game where Ryu was not the protagonist. Yaiba Kamikaze, a foul-mouthed cybernetic ninja, is on a quest for revenge against Ryu Hayabusa, who killed Yaiba in battle. Now resurrected as a cyborg, he rampages through a zombie apocalypse searching for a rematch with Ryu. Ryu, of course, appears in the game, but only as an antagonist. When the two finally face off, Ryu is depicted as his usual stoic, supremely skilled self, effectively serving as the final challenge for the player. Yaiba's over-the-top humor and comic gore were a departure from Ninja Gaiden's more serious tone, and the game received generally poor reviews for its gameplay. Ninja Gaiden fans were not fond of seeing Ryu relegated to a side character in a spin-off that essentially parodies the series' tropes. Between this and the initial Ninja Gaiden 3 release, it seems that the once ironclad series was starting to show a few cracks. After Razor's Edge in 2013, the franchise went on another hiatus for a while. Team Ninja shifted focus to projects like Nioh, and aside from Ryu's obligatory appearance in Dead or Alive 6, there wasn't much activity for a while. Still, Koei Tecmo found other ways to nod to their favorite ninja. In Warriors Orochi 3 Ultimate, Ryu Hayabusa appears as a special guest character, teaming up with characters from Dynasty Warriors and other franchises. In Halo 3, there was an unlockable Hayabusa armor set for your Spartan in multiplayer, a clear homage to Ninja Gaiden's hero, and a reward for dedicated players who found hidden skulls in the campaign. You could also pick up an in-game replica of the Dragon Sword to put on your Spartan. Now, it wouldn't be until 2021 where Tecmo would once again package Ryu's greatest hits in the Ninja Gaiden Master Collection, bringing Ninja Gaiden Sigma, Sigma 2, and Razor's Edge to the PS4, Xbox One, Nintendo Switch, and PC, introducing Ryu's adventures to a new generation of players who maybe missed them the first time around by appearing on some of the consoles for the first time. The Master Collection served as both a preservation effort for Ryu's legacy and as a reminder that Ninja Gaiden still has a place in the modern gaming landscape. After all, he had been slashing foes for over 3 decades. Certainly enough of a proof of concept to gauge interest. Team Ninja then shadow dropped Ninja Gaiden 2 Black early this year, a surprise Unreal Engine 5 remaster of Ninja Gaiden 2. Clearly, the demand for Ryu's brand of hardcore action still persists. Which leads us to today. With rumors and hopes circulating for years, Team Ninja officially announced Ninja Gaiden 4 had started development in collaboration with Platinum Games. According to interviews, Ryu will have his own chapters that will feel true to his classic gameplay, but the spotlight of the narrative is shifting to newcomer Yakumo, marking a kind of passing of the torch. It is expected to drop in late 2025, but in the meantime, the franchise is branching out with the recently released Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, a side-scrolling action platformer developed by Blasphemous creators The Game Kitchen. And again, Ryu himself is not the star. Instead, we follow 2 new ninjas, Kenjimozu of the Hayabusa clan, and a kunoichi named Kumori of the Black Spider clan. Set during a time when Ryu is away in America dealing with personal matters, possibly placing this in tandem with the NES trilogy, these new heroes must defend the Hayabusa village from a demonic invasion in his absence. The game adopts a retro pixel art style with more modern design sensibilities and combo-heavy combat inspired by the 3D games. It's a bold experiment, much like Ryu's initial jump to 3D was. But should it prove to be a success, these 2 games could mark a new era of the Ninja Gaiden games, even if it means Ryu is no longer at the forefront. As we stand on the cusp of this new era, one thing is abundantly clear. Ryu Hayabusa's legacy is deeply ingrained in gaming history. He's a character who has successfully reinvented himself across generations, from the early console platforming icon who pioneered cinematic storytelling, to the 3D action superstar who set new standards for combat, to the crossover fighter who helped anchor an entirely different franchise. And yet, through all the evolutions, he's maintained that core appeal. A solitary warrior driven by duty, wielding bomb-ass weapons, performing extreme feats of skill and offering players a steep yet rewarding challenge. Ryu Hayabusa has built a 37-year legacy of excellence in action gaming. With new games on the horizon sidelining our longtime hero, one could worry that Ryu's chapter is closing. But as with every evolution in the series, this is just another step in growth. Ryu Hayabusa's legacy is secure. He's inspired game developers and earned a place in the pantheon of gaming's greatest characters, even if it's sometimes hard to see that in the shadows. What do you think? Are you excited to play these next entries in the Ninja Gaiden series? Let me know in the comments below, and for all the gaming action lurking in the shadows of the industry, stick with us at Game Rant.